Hey everyone, I'm Kunal Bajwa.
And I'm Lance Jordan.
We are two nerds who decided to start a podcast in 2020 due to the pandemic. No topic is necessarily off the table, and we'd like you to join us in hearing our thoughts on various topics, ranging from anime to Zeppelins. We have it all. Here we go. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today on this beautiful sunny morning on October 17th, 2020. We got a guest with us today. Yoni, can you say hi for us real quick?
Yes, my name is Yoni Medhin, based here in San Antonio.
Cool. And today's episode is going to be interesting. So one of the reasons I started this podcast is to reach out to people to help connect and then promote businesses local, talent local, anything local that I could pretty much come in contact with. So it's a bit of a funny story. This entire episode is really due to my brother and sister-in-law. When Lance and I first started recording, my brother chipped in and got us 3 of these condenser mics right here. And I was like, well, of course I have to do an episode with you. You can't just do that and not let me do anything for you. So thank you, Karan. You get full credit, okay? So stop bothering me all the time. And so they know a friend, they know a mutual friend of ours, actually. Jess used to work with Lauren in catering and all the time, and then they would hang out at Karan and Lauren's house all the time. And she works for you. She works with you. And so she heard our podcast, specifically with the wrestling podcast, and she thought, this is awesome. And then Lauren got in touch with me, and she was like, my friend Jess wants to talk to you, and then that's pretty much how this came to be. So that's how we're started, and that's how we came here today, which is pretty kind of a wild St. Louis bacon number turn of events. So yeah, that's how it started.
Very St. Louis.
Very
story
St.
right
Louis.
there.
Everybody knows everybody. It's kind of like the mob, but we deal in gooey butter cake. So yeah.
A little bit of protein powder here and there.
There's no protein in that, man. There's just butter.
Yeah, that's fair. I deal in protein powder, so.
And that's why you're here, because our 3 of us like to get swole as fuck. Lance, take it away.
All right, man. So my first question, can you just basically bring us up to speed about, your background growing up, family life, the values you grew up with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my family so my parents are immigrants from Ethiopia. They came from, they came during the 80s. It was during wartime. And so they came to this country. They had basically nothing. My dad told me when he first arrived in the airport in Denver, he had to borrow $5. And so that's just how they've always looked at it. They just $5 to get a taxi to go to his host home.
So they didn't even have the $20 in their pocket.
No.
All their immigrant stories.
No. They just showed up. They had to borrow some money, and then was a taxi driver for a long time. Wanted to plant a church. So our family's Christian, so he wanted to plant a church for a while, and then ended up doing that. But that was a little bit later, and then went back into engineering school. And then so from my mom's end, she came to this country also escaping wartime, and they had met in Canada at some conference. And so when they were in Canada, they met. He brought her to Denver, and that's when they started the family. And they just basically worked their butt off for probably, I guess, since 1999. They've just been working their ass off. And they're, so they've done really well for themselves. But those values of working hard in school, serving your community has always been a big aspect of it. So I've done mission trips, kind of all over the place. I was teaching English in Poland at one point, went to Nicaragua to help, prepare an orphanage. I've done a lot of trips in Africa. And so, that's just always been a value of mine. And then, I serve a lot in our community, but then at the same time, it's like, if you're not getting an A, you're getting spanked. And so it's one of those things. So, now, granted, I did not get all the time A's, so I was able to kind of slide underneath that. But so I ended up going to engineering school, and that's kind of a little bit of the background. All of this was happening in Denver. So that's where I was born and raised this whole time. So only recently moved to San Antonio for the startup.
And what school was this that you did in engineering?
Yeah, so it's actually what I'm wearing right now, Colorado School of Mines.
Okay.
It's an engineering school based in Golden. And so basically you're surrounded by breweries. So we would ski in the morning, drink, then go take our test. And so it was awesome, man. It was like, I look back and I think I actually had some of the best college experiences you could probably have.
Any that you can share?
Or want to share?
Well, so I skipped a lot of class, a lot of class. So I would, anytime there was a powder day, it was an immediate, we're going to get an F on that attendance quiz or pop quiz. We would leave at 6 a.m., go to the mountains, ski for half a day, come back, go to a brewery, drink, study, cram for a test, take the test, realize that we probably should have studied before the test, then go drink our sorrows away. And then, so that was pretty much a cycle. And then, as far as stories, man, oh my God. So it's a small engineering school. And so everybody knows everybody. And so, there at one point I thought I wanted to join a fraternity, and that was not for me. And so the stuff they would have us do for that, and then I also ended up playing rugby. A lot of the hazing that was associated with that was wild. A lot of stuff. We had a river that went through campus, or not near to the campus, called Clear Creek. And a lot of the hazing involved, like going into that when it was like sub-0 degrees and drinking along that. It was fun, man. One of the punishments that we had to do for rugby was a lot of streaking. So, and not only streaking, it was like streaking that coincided with like some sort of abuse.
Did you pick up any chicks that way?
No, man. I don't think women are too attracted to men that are kind of intoxicated, running around a house naked.
Was there shrinkage after a while from this, like the sheer cold of it, or?
Yeah, man. At some point, you just like look down and you're like, I don't know what I am anymore. That's terrible. It was one of those things where we realized like, that this is probably not the best idea if we want jobs. And so no recording allowed, obviously. But we used to have things like kangaroo court where, you would show up to, basically like a fake court, hence the term, and you would be punished for all the sins that you did on the rugby field. So any mistake that you did was brought forth to the captains who were the judge, and then they would impart a sentence on you. And so the sentence sometimes was everybody lines up in a line. You drop your pants just to show your butt facing the banquet audience, and they all line up and they just spank. And so I had that, it actually had, dude, I kid you not, I was like bleeding, and it was so violent. Wow. I'm like, this is the worst experience. So now looking back, it was fun. At the time, I figured like this is probably abusive.
That's why I never joined a frat. So
dude,
I was approached once to join a frat and help start it and everything, and I'm like, no, I'm good, man. I'm gonna be the quiet nerd in the back that does his homework. So.
Well, I was always like the token black guy, so everybody wanted me in their frat.
I was also the token brown kid.
Right.
I was the second Indian guy on my floor. There was my roommate, but then he actually got an apartment outside of college, and like he like was there the whole time, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna use this whole dorm room as a freshman myself. Okay.
Oh geez, yeah, that guy's I don't know. I don't think I ever had a black person on my. Actually, no. When I was an RA, which I was a terrible RA.
You were letting everything slide,
bro. Oh my God, I was so bad. I almost got fired all the time. It was just like I was just under threat of being fired all the time. But what was great was none of my residents were ever depressed. They all loved me. We all had a great relationship, and I helped them study. I wasn't a dumb RA, so I'd help them with their schoolwork, but oh man, every time they're just like, did you trespass and break into the tunnels underneath the school and take them on tours and charge them $5? per person? I was like, yeah, sometimes. So we had tunnels from Coors Brewery where they would pump in steam to heat the campus.
Oh, that's cool. Or hot.
Yeah, well, it was pretty hot actually. When one of the pipes were breaking, it was pretty bad. And it's federal trespassing, but I found entrances all throughout the campus, and so I charged $5 for a tour. One of my first ever entrepreneurial endeavors.
That's actually really fucking cool.
Dude, I made like $500. And so in college, that was like, it was a decent amount of beer and eating out.
No doubt.
Yeah. So that's some of the stuff that I used to do that definitely got me under threat of going and getting arrested. But, you build good relationships. All the cops loved me on campus because I was just like, super pleasant to them. I wasn't a dick. And they're just like, yeah, you're not a good kid, but you're not doing too many bad things. And so it turned out okay.
Positive police interaction with a person of color. That's rare.
Dude, it is, especially when you're trespassing. Yeah, I just had to
You
smile.
mentioned beer a lot. So what were you drinking?
Yeah, so Colorado, Golden was like one of the hubs of the beer scene in Colorado. So microbreweries were popping up all the time. And that's actually what ended up leading to the startup. But I fell in love with IPAs. So almost every IPA you can think of that comes from Colorado, I've probably tried, unless it's probably something in the last like year or two. So I like IPAs a lot. Never really got into stouts. And then, also I started getting into, there's quite a few distilleries in Colorado. So Stranahan's, they make pretty good whiskey and bourbon. There's a couple others like kind of in the mountain area, like mountain towns. And then there's a tequila maker in Colorado as well. But mostly stuck with IPAs. Okay. So I don't know. Do you guys like IPAs? It's kind of a touchy subject.
I enjoy more of the bourbon. I can't really do IPAs. I've tried. I have a big sweet tooth, so I'm like, I need to.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like a big soju kind of guy. But I do enjoy like bullet bourbon whiskeys. I definitely like those. Yeah.
That's good.
What about you, Lance?
So when I was getting into drinking, I was doing a lot of beers. So I was doing like the Budweisers, Busch, Blue Moon.
Blue Moon's good. I like Blue Moon.
Blue Moon is like the best tasting beer I've tasted so far.
I would agree with that.
Everybody just hates the taste of beer that I know, but it's always been the best gauge of how I know when I'm drunk or not is, I think it was always like 6 beers, and then I'm like right at that level that I started doing shots at. Really throw me over the edge.
Good to know. Good to know. All right, cool.
Yeah, I don't think anybody honestly likes beer, man. I think it's all just piss that's flavored, and so you just kind of coax yourself into saying, I like IPAs.
Which is really sad, because like there's some good like Belgian beers, like Pilsners.
Yeah.
That are just like underappreciated, and I'm like drinking culture outside of the U.S. is so different.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes.
So different. Like, I have a friend named Josh, and he's actually, after a bunch of paperwork and everything, he's visiting a girlfriend out in Germany, and he's been sending me, like, he was talking about, like, how different and how higher quality the beer is out there, and just, how much it's good. We wanted to follow into the next point, is like, so we kind of come from, and we've talked on the phone, it's interesting that I brought it up the first time we talked on the phone. I was like, this podcast is kind of has a nerdy background with Lance and I. I mean, hell, I'm wearing a One Punch Man t-shirt today to get through the day because pandemics are rough. But I actually am not a big South Park fan. That was just happened to be like a South Park reference I went for. But I do enjoy a number of their episodes. But like, tell us like what's your brand of nerdiness? What do you enjoy to do, and entertainment do you like into like comic books, video games, anime? What you got?
Yeah, man. So I was an avid Battlefield player. So every single Battlefield game.
Oh hell yeah!
And then South Park. I love South Park. My nickname actually so happened to also be Token, which is kind of effed up, but whatever. I didn't have a choice.
A little bit.
Yeah. But at the time, it's like you can either. I actually kid you not. They asked me, "Do you want to be Uncle Tom or Token?" And I was like, Uncle Tom doesn't really roll off the tongue. He is a good guy, but it's going to be hard for me to respond to Uncle Tom seriously in any situation. Yeah. And so I said, token, I think I can get by it behind. So it's just so bad.
It's kind of like some things, like I definitely understood that because like I definitely got terrorist jokes in high school, and I'm like, okay, all right, like cab driver jokes. I'm like, okay, I dressed up. This, like, looking back on it, I cringe like a motherfucker because I dressed up like I thought I looked Sicilian enough. I had this really big like Godfather phase and so I'm like, senior year, I'm gonna go out to the best like outfit I do. Like, you're a nerd where you have to explain your outfit to everyone you come in contact with for Halloween. And stop shaking your head, Lance. And so I dressed up as Michael Corleone. And so everyone, like, I was like wearing a suit. I slicked back my hair. I thought it was dope as fuck. And then like everyone was like, "Are you a cab driver or something? Like, what are you doing?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "No, I'm not a cab driver." So I totally sympathize. It wasn't great at the time.
At the time, yeah.
Okay, so Battlefield's
like my video game of choice. South Park. I rewatch like basically Last Airbender once a year. Last Airbender once a year.
Last Bender. He bends.
Who's your favorite character or favorite episode?
Yeah.
Favorite episode. Let me see. Hold on, I gotta do a quick Google search.
I'll tell you, the Tales of Ba Sing Se was a really, really good episode. Like I love the whole Earth Kingdom arc.
It's a book.
That was
too.
a really good arc.
Yeah. Tales of Ba Sing Se. That's the last episode with Mako, the voice actor too. And just every time I watch the episode, it gets you right in your stomach because it's so
with Iroh.
Yeah, so heartfelt. Like we need to do our own episode just on The Last Airbender because there's so much out there.
Favorite character, I would say Toph for me when she was introduced. I love her attitude. Even though she was like disabled, she was so powerful.
Totally agree.
And so young, at a young age too.
Like barely 8 years old or something like that. Like.
Was she not 8 years old?
She was not a teenager. She was still very young.
There we go. That's his name, Uncle Iroh.
Uncle Iroh.
Yeah.
That was your favorite?
From the Tales of Ba Sing Se. Yes. Okay, there we go. I was like trying to remember. Yeah, I was like, who's the old guy who's so nice? He's so nice and like... Yeah, and then I was just like, Google. I was like, man, who's that old dude? And they're like, yeah, he's kind of like Mr. Rogers. I was like, no wonder I liked him so much.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I was just like, okay.
He is in a lot of ways like Mr. Rogers because he just has an answer to everything and has so much wisdom, but like, there's a background of so much. Like, I really wish they did. Like, they've released a bunch of like graphic novels of that series of The Last Airbender, like detailing what happens to Zuko's mom, what happens like when Zuko tells Aang like no matter what, because he's like be the Avatar, and if I screw something up, take me out. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. I need them to do an arc where it's just like young Iroh, and then tell us like what happened up to the point of Lutan's death, because there's so much there that we just don't know. That's kind of left to our imagination, especially like probably my favorite episode is the Dancing Dragon episode, where they have to go to Sun Warriors and find out like how to firebend but not using anger. So that's a really good one.
Was that Zuko?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then you find out like the reason I say that is because like you find out Iroh lied to save the last dragons so that way they could repopulate and not be extinct, which I thought was really cool. And so like they wonder, like they hypothesize that Lu Ten might have been the second guy to work to face both the Dragon Masters at the same time. So I think that's pretty cool, but we don't know for sure. So that's there. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, we got off on a strong nerd tangent.
Bro, you guys are way more on top of it than I am, but yes.
Kanal will break it down to the material of the shirt, when that weapon was forged, That's why he gets paid.
That's right. All $2.36, man.
That's right.
Thank you, Anchor. I was a history major back in the day, so I love those detailed oriented things, and I've been following some groups on Facebook. So give me like 50% credit. Like I'll take 50% of it. Anyhow.
All right, back to it. So Yoni, another thing that we found out that was interesting was that you were a gold medalist pancake flipper.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. Yeah, so basically, yeah, so when we were, I think that was a story from Jess, but basically Matt and I we were trying to enter like competitions or ways to like kind of promote our flower. So
And Matt's your co-founder?
Yep, Matt's my co-founder. So I met him playing rugby in college. And so basically, long story short, we figured out like, yeah, if we advertise ourselves as gold medalist pancake flippers at the farmer's market, that might be able to get us some more hits. So that's basically how the story started. Now there have been a lot of side made up stuff about it from other people, but the long story short, we just started saying we are the best pancake flippers.
What's the best made up story that you've heard?
I mean, this is how legends are born.
Yeah.
So made up stories are part of the legend. So do tell.
Dude, one lady asked if I went on tour flipping pancakes. I was like, have you ever actually met somebody that's gone on tour flipping pancakes? I'm like, that actually is not real. But if I could get paid doing that, I would probably do it for a little bit.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, Matt and I like perfected the art of flipping a pancake. We got to the point where you could kind of just like slap the spatula, it would flip midair, and then you kind of just like gracefully let it hit the pan.
Okay.
Is it more elbow and less wrist, or like is it?
It's like all wrist.
Okay.
All wrist.
Think about like,
look at the wrist.
I don't know if you guys ever got, hit by your parents, but it's like, imagine like getting hit by the belt. It's just all wrist.
That belt.
I may or may not have, but
You can't confirm or deny that you've been hit with a belt?
I was never hit with a belt.
Well, I'm African, man. That was like tame.
Yeah.
The rest of it was, hey, you just go outside and you have to run from a lion. It was like the other option. So they used, bro, I mean, coming from where they're coming from, they're just like, yeah, they just would lock you outside for like 48 hours. I'm like, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah, like they would call that child abuse in America.
Well, growing up in St. Louis, our parents would lock us out to make us like go outside and actually play and do something, get active, like get away from the video games. You can't come back until the street lights come on, and you better be home when the street lights are on.
That's right. That's how we did it back in the good old days.
Yeah,
right?
in the good old days.
The good old days. Oh my God, that's a big eye roll. God, I hate when people bring that up. I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh, I know. That's why I did the fist pump in the air and everything.
Yeah, dude. It's like, oh man, yeah. Back in the good old days when you guys didn't have a lot of job opportunities. Yeah, I'm just like, Jesus, man.
Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, you're so lazy and everything. I'm like, I know all of my friends are doing like 2 jobs at least. Like, it's like we're not screwing around.
Yeah.
Right now, probably more because we had no choice, but.
Yeah. So going into Grain for Grain.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
What inspired you to become an entrepreneur, and what has the journey been like for you?
Well, so for me particularly, I'm like regret averse. So I hate feeling regretful. So when Matt and I came up with the idea of doing spent grain recycling, so originally I came up with the idea in college, and then Brett brought Matt in when we were in Houston together working. It was one of those things where we just saw the opportunity, and he is very risk averse, so he doesn't like taking risks. But for me, I just knew in like, hey, 50 years, if I don't try something like this while I'm young, I was very naive, mind you, so I had no idea what the hell I'm doing. I still don't really know what I'm doing 90% of the time.
Welcome to the club.
I mean, honestly, right? I'm just like kind of shooting from the hip half of the time. I was like, I just was talking to several people that were way older than me, 60, 70. And they're just like, look, you're going to have plenty of years to work. If you really want to be a professional, you have plenty of years to do that. you do not have a lot of opportunities to do something that might add value big time to people, and just so give it a shot. You will hate yourself if in 50 years somebody else is doing this and you're still stuck behind a desk, kind of 100%. Working for somebody else's dream. And so I said, nah, man, screw that. So this was an idea that we felt was worthwhile going after. So that's kind of what really led it. And then part of it too, I was in North Dakota at the time. And so
that was your petroleum job, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I was a petroleum engineer for about 2.5 years before moving into upcycling food. So I went from what people would say raping and pillaging the earth to recycling food. And I'm like, thanks, guys. I think it's a little bit more positive than that, but fine. I'll take the contrast if it makes you buy something. I'm like, sure. And so so this was a great opportunity also for me to get out of North Dakota as well. I was 24 at the time. And so being 24 single and in an area like Minot, North Dakota, where you're just like, yeah, I'm just trying to find a girl who has all her teeth, which is really bad. But that was some of the jokes. They're like, yo, man, there's so many girls here.
Is that the bare minimum?
Bro,
all the teeth?
Yeah, man. One of the managers I used to work for, who was based out of Houston, when I was like preparing to move up there for this project, we were building like some pipelines up there. He goes, there's plenty of women there. The trick is you have to look behind all the trees. They're all behind the trees. And I'm like, what? He's like, the problem is there's just no trees. I'm like, that's the worst joke. And I'm just like, that makes no sense. One. And that's literally what they use that joke all the time, as if it was like a good joke.
So it's like you're never going to find them.
Well, they're not there. Yeah. It's like they're all behind the trees, but there are no trees. And I'm like, what? Okay. It's like, okay, guys.
So you do this whole flip from a very stable job, petroleum worker, and then you're like, I have the science knowledge and I had this idea to take a product and to not destroy the earth at the same time, to maybe help other people, because you have this background from your parents taught to you, be very helpful to people around you from whatnot, as from a young age. And I think it's really cool. Undoubtedly, I know that it's probably hard for them to accept for you to leave that job, because I have Indian parents too, and I love them to death, and it comes from a good place where they're like, no, you have to make all this money. We don't care about sustainability. We care about you being safe. So what was that like to switch from that to, doing a project that you're like, I don't know if it's going to work, but I want to do it and I want to give it a shot?
Yeah, for sure. Walking into it, when we figured out exactly kind of our value proposition, and we figured out that we could probably raise money on it. So the big thing is we're able to dry the grain from 6 to 7 hours the old way. We can do it in 20 minutes. So we're like, okay. Shit. So we're like, all right. So this is a big leap in some innovation. So we're like, okay, I think we've got something that we can raise some money and go try a real experiment. And I can do this full time for a year or two and see what it's like.
Remind me your science background specifically.
Yeah, so this is unrelated, but yeah, so petroleum engineering is like a bit of mechanical engineering, a little bit of chemical engineering, and then mostly petroleum concepts. So that was the idea. Originally, I was going to be I wanted to go into physics, but the market demand for petroleum engineers was like, you come out of school and make $120K a year. I was like, hell yeah, sign me up.
Don't blame you at all.
And so I just went where the market went on that one. And granted, when something pays that much and it's based off of a commodity, you're asking for it the moment prices go down. So that's what happened, right? So prices go down. A lot of my friends were losing jobs. And so I started seeing that it was an unstable career path if I wanted to stay for a long time. And plus I just didn't like the climbing greasing the corporate ladder along the way and just trying to, playing the politics. Granted, maybe I'll end up there again, but at least at the time I said, while I'm young and I still have quite a bit of energy and no responsibilities, I think this is a good time to try something. And so when we made our invention, I kind of had, just that idea of saying, all right, I think this is worthwhile trying. I went to my parents and I told them about it. I was like, hey guys, I think I'm going to actually quit my job. And then I told them the idea is make some pancake mix, make some flour products, introduce it to the market. And then we're hoping that some big companies will want to buy the flour from us wholesale and then also want to buy the technology behind it was the idea. And so I told my mom literally doesn't say anything, then looks at me and she's crying, and she's like, Yoni, you're going to quit. You're going to quit your engineering job to make pancakes? What did I do? What did I do? And I'm like, what? That you didn't hear a thing I said. So I actually, I really wanted their support as far as like them being behind it. So I actually like kind of took my time before I quit until I like got there, at least their support of saying like, we believe in you. We're here for you. I think this is a really cool idea. And so I took some time, just like wait until they were like, at least emotionally bought in. But man, my dad was like, I think this is a stupid idea, man. I think this is a bad idea. I'm going to tell you, Yoni, I have seen some bad ideas. I don't know if this is a good one. And I'm like, oh God, what kind? And so it took him a while. Really, my mom's caught up. I can't believe you're going to quit your engineering job to make pancakes, kind of.
But this is an engineering job. It's just a different one.
Exactly. It's like, it's taking engineering, it's kind of taking the engineering process of like thinking through something, designing it, and then making like having a practical application for a real world solution is in effect what engineering is. And so,
and that's what I love, because the only way we're going to save problems, it's like often people, when they look at problems, are like, oh, we got no choice. We got two choices, this choice or that choice, and both of them are terrible. I'm like, we have a lack of imagination here. And I love that this product that you and Matt have made is like, it's like, no, we have the technology. Literally, we have the technology, and I have the smarts to work with this and to bend it and do what we need to do to not destroy everything. Like there's options is what I'm trying to say.
You're right. I mean, man, you can apply that to anything. Like anything that's like has a bipolar attitude of the one extreme or the other extreme. I look at that and I'm saying that is an incorrect way to view it. You can even say that freaking about politics. There's like, if you got A or B and that's it. And I'm like, no, if you keep doing that, those extremities, living in the extreme is just going to continue making things worse. There's always options. And so it just takes people to just think outside of the box, be a little bit of have some creativity to approach these problems. And you can do that with almost anything.
Yeah. To quote Tokyo Drift, you got to rip open the box, man.
There we go. Yes. Yes. I forgot.
I'm so glad you and Lance both got that reference. I'm so happy.
Hey, man. Fast and the Furious is still mine.
Continue.
Yeah, R.I.P. Paul.
Drift King away, man. Go ahead.
And so that's kind of the concept, right? So that's what was able to get the buy-in from, we were able to raise a little bit of money. We only raised, over the last 2 years, we've raised, I think, only about $230,000, just to like really operate this thing. So it really isn't that much for a manufacturing company, but we've been able to prove the concept and get into 200 stores with something that's completely brand new. And so now my parents are looking back, they're like, hey, at least you tried it. This has been awesome. So they're like super bought in. I'm like, you little hypocrites, but that's fine.
I mean,
but understandably so.
That's humans and parents. That sounds like them.
Yeah. And like from their background, they escaped. They were watching their friends die. Half of my dad's family when he was 11 was killed. My mom's family was scattered. So they were coming from an environment where there were no certainties.
Yeah, that's a reality. Like, we forget how safe the United States is in comparison to other countries. And don't get me wrong, if you travel to India, you'll most likely be safe. But riots, killings like this, like it's not uncommon in other cultures' histories to be prevalent. And so you've spoken quite a bit about the technology process on your product Grain for Grain, how you came up with the idea and the technology. Is there anything that you wanted to add or anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't cover as such with the product?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess kind of like at a high level, all what we're doing is when the brewery when they're making beer, they're taking barley. That barley, they extract the carbohydrates out through a process called mashing, and then out of that, they then introduce yeast, which then ferments into alcohol. All that's left though in the grain husk is just protein and fiber. And that is generally thrown to cows, pigs, so cattle feed, or to the landfill. And so for a while, companies like AB InBev, so like Budweiser's, the Coronas, rest in peace, that brand.
They're probably doing great.
That's a sad brand. I think they actually they were close to filing a lawsuit against the people that are using the name coronavirus.
I think I heard about that too.
Yeah, because they had to shut down production for like 6 months. It was crazy. Anyways, long story. That's a whole other side note. But those companies, Miller Coors, the people that made Samuel Adams, they've been trying to find a way to actually turn this into for human consumption. Like whey protein comes from cheese making, so whey used to be dumped in sewers until they figured out, hey, if you turn it into a powder, it's water soluble, and now all of a sudden you have a great protein source. And so we saw that, and so that is kind of what we do. We take that byproduct, dry it, mill it, and then we turn it into that flour, and that flour is used for a variety of products. Even dog food. We're working with a dog food company out in Wisconsin that's looking to start sourcing our stuff to make dog treats with it. So a lot of applications for it. It's just flour and grain that is 100% recycled. So that is at a high level really kind of what we're doing in case anybody has questions about that.
So we have a high protein, high fiber, no sugar content?
Yep.
That's awesome. So you can still say SWOLE and enjoy your cupcakes.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Oh my God. You don't have no idea how you made this inner fat kid so happy.
I know, right?
Because I used to be a very chubby person, but Blance and I love to work out, and that's actually how we met each other at a local gym. And the fact that we can enjoy.
I'm still a fat kid. So
you got some swole under that though. That's the thing.
I mean, but I can't pass up any cake or cupcakes or anything like that.
So do I, because they're glorious, and the fact that you can still do that is amazing. So you have local places out in San Antonio that are buying your product. Anywhere else that you're selling your product that's going around?
Yeah, so we outside of like these kind of these private label stuff that we're working on, we saw a product on our website, so grainforgrain.com, and then on Amazon.
And we'll put those in the notes. So
yeah, and so if you just search Grain for Grain, you'll find us right away. But yeah, I mean those are kind of the places right now. But if you're in Texas, eventually you'll be able to start buying fresh bread from HEB bakeries around the state. And so they're going to be making keto sliced bread, keto buns, keto cake, all with our flour. And I'll tell you, man, the keto cake, you do not need to pass up on it anymore. You can just eat it and it'll be guilt-free and it'll be amazing.
Does it taste the same? Like how much of a difference?
It tastes like it's one of those things where, okay, a good way to explain it. Do you know Halo Top ice cream?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just like that. So it's not ice cream all the way, but it's just as good or it's almost as good where you are able to sacrifice the taste for the health benefit.
I gotcha. Yeah, because the Halo Top's like you can get a pint for like 300 calories or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I downed that pint.
That sounds awesome. Keto cakes too. That just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, keto cake.
I love it.
So for you, just how big do you see yourself growing within like the next 5 years or so, or maybe within the next year even?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do now is so when we first started, we did not expect that we would be getting demand for our low carb flour like this. We thought we were going to be just making products after products. So we had a keto microwavable muffin cup. We had a couple other products kind of in the pipeline that we wanted to introduce and launch. And then what we realized was that as those products started moving, people actually wanted to start buying the product wholesale. So we pivoted towards really only trying to sell the wholesale flour now. And so that said, outside of COVID, we were expected to be much farther along this year. So, and that's with everybody. And so so I'm not one to complain as far as like everybody's having a really kind of shitty year as it is. But, where we see ourselves going in the next 5 years is really kind of building out these partnerships so for example, Impossible Burgers or Beyond Meat, they have these partnerships with companies like Dave & Buster's or Burger King, where you can get a veggie burger that tastes almost like meat. What we want to do is we want to make the bun. And so we want to have the bun be made with our flour. It's a sustainable, healthy bun that tastes great, that they can have with those futuristic meat products as well. So that's where we see ourselves doing. So we're trying to do is get the attention of people like Nestle or General Mills to really help kind of push that growth forward with their brand partnerships. And then I also want, if you walk into the, like, say, cereal aisle or cracker aisle or granola bars, they're going to have spent grain in there as just like a standard ingredient next to what they would have, like walnuts or wheat that they would have. I just want to have every product have the option to have a sustainable yet affordable way to making that available to their customers. And so that's where we see ourselves growing now. To get there, COVID needs to eventually end. So we'll see.
It will. We're gonna make it. I'm staying positive about that.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Fighting COVID.
And those stupid COVID deniers, gosh.
Yeah, I know. If I hear another person talk about 5G causing it, I'm
gonna lose it on somebody. I'm gonna throw a textbook at them.
I'll probably just be like, no, and walk away. That's how cool I'll be. But I wanted to ask you real quick, is there any possibility for gluten intolerance?
Yeah. So in the brewing process, when the enzymes are consuming up the starches that basically contain the sugar and then downstream turns to beer, they're also consuming basically the protein that contains gluten. So it's gluten is a type of protein essentially.
Right.
And so our flour and our grains actually, people with celiac eat it all the time. Now, I'm not going to recommend that just because it is not technically gluten-free because it's it's derived from barley or wheat.
Right.
But it is a processed ingredient. So a lot of that gluten's removed. And so anybody that has gluten intolerance or has some like gluten sensitivity, they've been able to have our product just fine. And that's actually recommended for them. But if they have celiac, we're not going to recommend it. But I will say though, with the caveat that, it is if the threshold's 20 parts per million, we hover between 10 and 30. And so It's one of those things where it averages out to a gluten-free product, but it averages out. So there could be a risk where, you may have a little bit more gluten than you anticipated. So we do not recommend it for people with celiac.
And I'm sure like down the line when you guys grow, because obviously you will from the level of the kind of product you have, I'm sure you could have, specific gluten intolerant locations just to produce that. Yeah, that's just a matter of time.
Yeah, exactly. We do everything in our one facility that we built just because we're small and we don't have that availability yet.
Cross-contamination's super annoying. A mutual friend that Lance and I have has celiacs, and that's his main issue. But I could definitely see it's all a matter of time. Cool. So getting back to being SWOLE, I hear that. So obviously, this has been a product that is good for people who want to stay in shape and still enjoy the best things in life. Like, do you work out? Like, what do you do to stay in shape? Or because you seem pretty in shape from just watch you right now. And they're
Yeah,
not
it's
creepy wet.
my thick sweater is hiding all my chunk. No, I
pecs. Just let them pop off.
I wish. No, so with rugby came just like a lot of lifting. So I love working out. I'm now one of those people that are doing CrossFit, but I'm not in the cult. I just do the workout.
You don't seem like you are.
I don't talk to people about it, but I do CrossFit quite a bit. And then I run a lot. And so the reason I do all of that is so that in the wintertime, when ski season arrives, I've got to represent my black folk up there because I'm generally the only black guy up there. So I can't be acting a fool just out of breath, you know. So I gotta be in shape for ski season.
There you go.
And I actually kid you not, that is really the reason. Like, people are like, why are you running all the time? I only like pack in my running in the fall just because I'm like, oh, seriously, I'm not going to embarrass black people while I'm skiing. So I'm going to do a good job. It's there.
So
I have
if you're
to
the only
say.
one there, you got to represent it strong. I understand that.
When did you start skiing?
I really only started in freshman year. So my downfall in life is I make most of my decisions because a girl. And so,
welcome to the club.
I know, man. Every major decision has actually had something to do with a girl, except for grain. That I will say was my own choice. That was for me.
Word up.
And so, but yeah, skiing. There was a girl I was super interested in, Emily. She will not know me, but she's like, I'm going to learn how to ski. I was like, I'm going to learn how to ski too. She's like, really? And so went in, bought my pass, bought my equipment. I later found out she was not going to ski that year. And so I was like super depressed, but my buddies knew kind of how much I was like anticipating it. And so they just took me up all the time. They taught me. They were really good. They had been skiing their whole life. And so within like a year or two, I started getting pretty good. And so now I go regularly. We go to some fun mountains like Jackson Hole, or I'm about to do a heli skiing in February. So just taking a helicopter up to the peak of a mountain.
That's
and
cool.
Skiing. Yeah, so stuff like that now I'm excited to do, and I can do because, just skiing a lot. But yeah, so I've only been doing it since freshman year in college, so not long.
A decent amount of time. Okay.
Yeah, I guess now it's been, it's been 8 years. Yeah, so about 8 years. So that is quite, wow.
Yeah. I was a freshman. I started college 10 years ago. I graduated in 2014, but like still, it's insane to think that now.
Jeez, we're getting old.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, black don't crack and brown don't frown, so we're going to be
fine.
Man,
there we go. Yes.
So like,
that's beautiful.
We're just going to become legends that are beautiful forever.
Except, man, I'm telling you, if you go to Colorado, you got to bring your lotion. Black don't crack, but black gets
I will.
ashy.
I've conceded the fact that I need to start moisturizing, start using Korean masks. And
oh, yeah, man. We get ashy so fast. I mean, that's like...
We do.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You know, there's pros and cons, you know.
Is there a grain for grain coming for that?
Yeah. There could be a day for that, I'm sure.
Yeah, maybe. Let me get the bread out the gate well, and then maybe I'll come out with a line of moisturizers. Some grain based moisturizers.
Fantastic. I will be the first one to buy. When that happens.
All right, I'll let you know. I'll send you guys a bottle of my lotion. That just sounds so weird saying that. I'm gonna send you up a bottle of my lotion. I've never said that sentence, I think, in my entire life, and that just doesn't work. I'm gonna send.
An exclusive. There it is.
Welcome to our podcast, my friend. I know I said this when we were talking on the phone a couple weeks ago, but I really wish we were friends in person like years ago.
Yes, absolutely.
It sounds like it's just so naturally that you have so much in common with Lance and I, at least in my opinion. Lance, I won't speak for you, but
yeah, absolutely.
Dude, Lance, I've been seeing you with your the twists. I've been working my way up to that now.
You working there?
I'm working my way, man.
Lance has had some good work done on his hair for sure. Like every time we've recorded.
What do the beauticians look like out there in Colorado? Can they twist hair?
There's actually an Ethiopian community there, so so there are people that'll be able to do that. I actually had cornrows when I was in middle school. I was just a very bubbly, short, fat black kid with cornrows. And so I was called a ghetto Fat Albert. I'm like, the hell? It's bro. I mean, there's some interesting names that people call me. So I quickly got rid of the cornrows after that. But the only reason I'm doing it, Toby Nwigwe, after I've been seeing him, I'm like, man, his twists are sick. I'm gonna copy him.
Yeah,
he's a rapper out of Houston, Texas.
Okay.
But I gotta say, like when I was doing some research on you, and I tried. I saw your Facebook profile, so I'm totally admitted that I Facebook stalked you. But and your fingers crossed.
Let's go. Hopefully it's good.
You had like you still have it now, but like you had like in that specific picture, you're with your dog, and you got this dope fade flat top, and I was like, fuck yeah, good for you, man.
Man, I started doing the flat top in college, and it was the best decision. So one, I'm not the tallest guy. I'm like 5'6", 5'7" on a good day.
I've noticed this like 5 times in the podcast, but welcome to the club.
Yeah, there we go.
Hell yeah.
And so for me, the flat top, I absolutely has now made me 5'9" in most women's eyes. And so it has been amazing. It has been the best addition to my forte. And so I try and keep it a little bit tall. So right now it's like about 1.5 inches tall. And so when I actually pick it out and it's fresh, ooh, I'm like kind of average height at that point. It's exciting.
The Fresh Prince of San Antonio. I love it.
Yeah, I'm either the Hitch of San Antonio. I do try and do matchmaking unsuccessfully, but I try. And then I have self-named myself the self-proclaimed Fresh Prince of San Antonio, and that has not stuck. So most people still call me Token or my name. So
I'll call you the Fresh
You got to
Prince
get into different communities, man.
I know. It's just a lot of white people will embrace it. They're just like, yeah. And then anybody that's black or Hispanic, they're like, dude, get out of here. Like, what are you doing? And I'm just trying to make a good smile, man. And they just hate it. So I can never win.
Yeah.
I can never win.
Yeah, it's like, it's rough. It's like, America's so like, we have, you name it, we have it. but like, it's just very gerrymandered, red line segregated. And it's rough. It's rough, and you gotta make some choices. So I totally understand.
Yeah, there's what was it? You have to codify. You have to recode your speech. So every time you're in a new group,
it's true.
Just code
it's
it
true.
up a little bit.
Like I hear it whenever I talk to, and it's natural. It's natural for the most part. Like it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just kind of what happens. But I've definitely noticed, like when I'm around, like my family, my Indian side of the family, like I definitely like some of the accent comes out a little bit. And when I'm with other people, it's just like it's what you're hearing now. And then when I'm with white people, it's completely different. So sometimes if I know them really well, then it's not. But yeah, for sure. That's a thing that definitely happens. Wow. You're so easy to talk to. Is there anything else you would like to talk about that we didn't cover so far with the questions that we asked? Lance, do you have anything either?
Oh, nothing to come to mind, but just how can the people reach you or just find Grain for Grain?
Yeah. So if people just reach out and go to @GrainForGrain, our Instagram, we're always on there, talking with people that DM us. So if you want to reach out there, that's a great place. You can find me, Yoni Medhin, on the gram. I talk a lot. And so I just ask, I'm just somebody interesting.
You be going live?
I do go on live, but it's in situations where I should not be on live. So it's
using my IGTV every once in a while.
Well, dude, I'll be at a bar. I'm gonna go live, and it's just a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And so
it's just like you holding a drink and like shaking or something.
Yeah, so the camera's all vibrating, and I'm just like, and so for me, I'm lucky that I am my own employer, but moving forward, maybe Grain for Grain doesn't stay forever, and so I've stopped that habit just so it doesn't start.
Don't want the CEO going crazy on the gram.
I know, man. So, but yeah, the best place to reach us at Grain for Grain on our Instagram is like probably for sure the best one. Facebook, most of that content is kind of transferred over. But yeah, if anybody, and then the website's awesome. It has all the information on there. So grainforgrain.com.
I checked it out. It has like all of your newsreels. It's pretty cool. And I'm guessing obviously that from there we can purchase your product.
Absolutely. So if you go grainforgrain.com, and then you can buy, right now we sell them in 3-packs, primarily because just shipping the one box kind of is one of those things where we're like, yeah, it's a bit expensive on the shipping, but we've had a lot of success where people buy it and then they want it again. So they have asked for us to sell it in packs that's a little bit cheaper. So we offer it in a 3-pack for both the flour and the pancake mix. And then if they ever want to buy it in bulk, like if somebody just wants to bake a ton just at home, or they have like a cake that they want to make, they're more than welcome to kind of request that as well.
Fantastic. That's awesome. I don't know. That's pretty much it for me.
Yeah.
Lance?
I think that's it for this week.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. This was fun, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys bringing me out here. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for agreeing to do this, too. Like, we had a lot of fun doing it, and go out there and buy his product because you can stay swole and still enjoy those cupcakes.
Let's go. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I will tell you, 4 pancakes will give you 20 grams of protein and only 8 net grams of carbs. I mean, I'm telling you guys, you will get happily swole.
Like, and you put some almond butter on top of that, or some, oh, man.
Yep.
All right, stop talking about food, guys.
Hey, man, that's what this whole episode's about.
Yeah, we have a keto cake on our recipe page. It's a raspberry keto cake.
Oh, I love raspberry.
Wow.
Per slice, we're talking a handsome slice of cake.
Yeah.
5 net grams of carbs. And it's what won us our competition to get into grocery stores. It is, I mean, it was actually like trialed by like chefs, buyers, and they loved it.
Fantastic.
So telling you, the raspberry keto cake's where it's at.
I'm gonna buy some probably after this call.
It's super good. It's super good.
Go and do that, everybody. Yoni, thank you for joining us.
Thank
on
you
this
guys.
Episode. Pleasure having you on. And maybe one day after I'm done making these pancakes, Lance and I will finally have a hobby. So,
and post COVID, we'll have to kick it sometime.
I would love that.
Yeah,
seriously, man. Like, once my couch gets delivered, hopefully by the end of this year, because it's thrown back everything. You can totally sleep on it, so it's totally fine.
I'm down. That'd be sweet, man.
Fuck yeah!
All right.
Hey fan peeps, thanks for joining, and as always, we appreciate any feedback. You can follow us on our Facebook page, They Need a Hobby, and also at TNAH Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
Hopefully one day we'll find a hobby and maybe even be one of the cool kids. Peace.